How y'all doing today? How y'all doing today? Welcome back to the Count It All Joy podcast with your boy Will. And I'm back on another episode today. And today, man, ah, this episode is gonna hit home for me because I struggle with this probably the most out of everything I talked about. And something I've been working on literally my whole life. And something that I'm continuing to work on literally today. And yeah, today we're gonna be talking about anger and controlling that anger and, you know, learning how to live life, without anger driving you and driving your actions. Uh, to begin, I'm kind of gonna reference a verse that I've spammed probably. I've said a few times on this podcast. I know I said it on a specific episode that I'm thinking of probably. I think it was the episode The Way We Speak. I'm pretty sure I talked about this specific verse then, but obviously it applies to not to multiple topics. But again, we're talking about anger. And the first point I have is we can't respond quickly. We need to internalize first. Uh, and the verse that makes me think of that is James 1:19 through 20. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Now, I know I said this again. I'm pretty sure I talked about this in one of my other past episodes, but we have to be slow to speak. And then in that, we're gonna be we're gonna become slow to anger. But the first part of it is quick to listen. But since we're talking about anger, I want to emphasize the point we need to be slow to speak, right? Because I think a lot of times, especially in arguments, especially when someone says something crazy, the first thing you want to do is just go back at the person. That's the anger. Now, sometimes, some people are skilled enough to be able to rebuttal someone's comment or stance without really letting anger overtake them, which is great. But for the most of us, it's not that easy. So I think we need to, again, it says quick to listen, but it says slow to speak. With that, when you're quick to listen, quick to hear what they're saying, rather than, and I'm not just saying quick to listen just to be like, okay, oh, they said this. Because I'm not gonna lie, I've been like this anyway, but I've learned why I'm like this as I've gotten older, and then the different classes I've taken. Like I've taken persuasion classes and all of that, so I get there's actual aspects of dialogue and conversation and really arguments and debating that takes act in everyday life. For instance, semantics. Like somebody messes up on a word and you try to dive into it, like just weird stuff. But that's not the point. Anyway, again, we need to be quick to listen, not to just hear, not to listen to figure out our rebuttal, but actually listen to what they're saying. And sometimes we're listening to how people are saying it as well, and that's on the sender, not just the receiver. Sometimes on the sender as well, how they're saying things, what their tone is. But sometimes as the receiver, we need to be like, okay, what are they actually saying? It still might tick you off, but we need to listen and then slow to speak. We don't have to automatically respond all the time. And yeah, I mean that verse, obviously, I think we've all heard that verse, but that is something that's really true and something that I try to think of every single day because I'm always in a situation where, because again, I've told this, if y'all follow the podcast for me, I'm extremely irritable. That's nothing to flex about, but that is something that I've dealt with uh throughout my whole life. You know, I had anger. I was it's whatever. I had anger problems growing up, especially as a little kid. And when you're a little kid, all you think of somebody say something disrespectful or somebody does something you don't like. I'm just trying to fight. As I've gotten older, though, I've gotten way better because I've learned you can't fight everybody. I'm too small to be fighting everybody. I'm 5'11" on a great day, 170 on my best day. So I'm not about to fight some dude that's 6'5", 230. You got it, brother. You know, you got it. It's not that deep. So, but a lot of times too, I try not to put myself in that situation, especially playing basketball. I'm surrounded around giants. I've been surrounded around giants my whole life, and you just have to pick your battles as well. You can't let anger overtake your actions, man, and what you're thinking. But again, like I said, with basketball, I've had to learn. You have to pick your battles wisely. I remember, shout out Coach Earls, rest in peace. He um he was my PE teacher. He was a teacher at Hopewell, the school I grew up in for years. He watched me grow up. Anyway, I remember he used to tell me, well, he wasn't saying this to me, but I remember he used to say this to other people. Sometimes it was regarding me. He's like, "Hey, you barking up the wrong tree. Barking up the wrong tree." I didn't know what it meant then, but it makes sense now. Just have to be careful, because then even it's more important than that, that you somebody could, knock you out. But it's more the main point of it is that we have to control our anger, and we can't let anger overtake, our actions. And we have to, like I said, be quick to listen, slow to speak. Sometimes, like, you don't have to say everything. Um, Going off of that, and this again, all this stuff, I'm gonna keep spamming this because I want you guys to know I'm trying to work everything I'm talking about. I'm currently trying to work through. So it's really, I'm talking to y'all, but I'm talking to myself as well. So I'm really trying to apply the stuff I'm talking about. But this next point, everything is not an issue. We have to learn to be less irritable. We can't let everything. My mom always tells me. She tells me. She's told me this my whole life. Like, everything is can't be a problem. Well, she said to William, but everything is not an issue. You can't let everything bother you. There are like certain things. I have a lot of pet peeves, and as I've gotten older, I recognize them. But one thing that ticks me off is like people that lack common sense, or when people do things that make no type of sense, or like they don't think it through, or they do things that it's just not, it's illogical. Like, that type of stuff really irks my soul, and I don't know. I know how I'm going to get over it, but it's just something I struggle with. When people say goofy stuff, or people do goofy things that lack preparation and lack, again, common sense, it ticks me off, and I get extremely irritated. And it's stuff like that it's not an issue. Like, yeah, somebody might be, on the slow bus. Let's be honest. There are some people who aren't with the rest of us. That's nothing to get angry about. We have to be patient with them. We have to, and that's something I'm trying to learn. Patience with it too. Like, it's crazy how impatient. Looking back, how impatient I can be when certain things like that things aren't even that deep. Um, and again, I find myself in everyday life. Again, that and this stems from, being impatient, but I find myself in everyday life having to be like, "Oh, well, come on, bro, it's not even that deep." In basketball practice, talking to my mom, talking to a significant other, talking to my friends, they might say something like, it's like, bro, I find myself, and it's a blessing because I prayed about it, so it's God brought it to my attention more so like in the moment, not even just later on. Because back then it was just later on. I reflect upon it later on, but now I'm starting to learn in the moment. Uh, I find myself getting irritated. I'm like, bro, really sit back and think about what you're mad about. It's nothing to be angry about. That's another thing too. Sometimes we get angry about stuff that doesn't even matter, or it's not that deep, and we're just stressing ourselves out for no reason. So I think that's another thing too. Uh, Everything is not an issue. Everything is not a problem. Everything's not worth your time. So we can't sit there and get stressed and get angry and get irritated about it when it's not that deep. When it can just get nipped in the bud immediately, or it doesn't. You don't have to pay it any real attention. A verse that reminds me of that is Proverbs 15, 18. It says, "A hot tempered person, stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel." So a quarrel is like a fight or argument, whatever, for people that don't know that. But uh, again, like I was talking about with patience and being impatient. What I was just talking about, I told you that stems from being impatient, and this verse talks about that. I'll say it again: a hot tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. So a hot tempered person, man, somebody that's really angry, all it does is escalate the situation. It increases the tension that's going on. It doesn't make an angry person in an argument, or it could be just a conversation. It doesn't make the situation any better. You know, it's gonna have to take the other person in the dynamic to, you know, smooth things out. But an angry person, it doesn't usually lead to great outcomes. But that's why it says, but the person, the one who is patient, calms a quarrel. That's a fact. You know, we troll when we talk about like, he trying to mediate, or he trying to be the middleman, or he trying to be neutral. But if we really think about it, think about how many times you argue with your friends, or argue with other people, argue with your significant other, and you have that person in the middle who's like, "Hey, y'all chill, bro. Like, he didn't even mean it like that." Like, they're the person who's calming the storm. They're calming a quarrel, a fight, because it can lead to fight. Obviously, most of the time, as I got older, I'm not trying to get any fights. Again, I'm too old for that. But it can lead to a real argument where you want to, go to blows. But when you have that person in the middle, it doesn't even have to be the person in the middle. But I'm saying a lot of times it takes a third party to calm the storm. But why can't we, in a situation, we could be angry with somebody else? Why can't we be that person for ourselves and be like, okay, let me calm down. It's not that deep. I'm tripping. Or the other person might be tripping. But you be like, all right, you know what? You got it. Let me relax. Because both of us angry is not about to change anything. It's not about to make anything better. Us screaming at each other, and again, all this stuff I do. I'm tweaking sometimes when I do it. I can find myself arguing with my teammates every day, screaming, going back and forth, talking about who's the best defender in the WNBA. Like, it's goofy conversations like that, which the WNBA is not goofy because I love WNBA, but I'm saying that conversation really, it's no significance behind that conversation. And the fact that we're screaming at each other, getting in each other's face about a subjective topic is just insane. So when you think about it like that, it's like, bro, we we just had to be more patient, and everything is not an issue. Everything is not a problem. Everything doesn't, warrant a real reaction. Uh, this verse hits, and I had to think about it. When I saw this verse, I was like, ooh. When I thought of it, I'm like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. But again, well, I didn't say again, not again, but listen, watch who you're around because they can influence your anger. They can influence anger out of you, right? They can generate anger out of you, aka rage baiting. I don't know if you old heads. Sorry, I don't want to say old heads, but I don't know if the older people that are listening, I'm pretty sure you guys heard the term rage baiting, but now it's become oversaturated in this age. But everyone likes rage baiting. I'm gonna tell you right now, I love rage baiting. Right? I love rage baiting. It's all in fun. I only do it with my friends when I'm just trolling because I'm a troll. But rage baiting can turn into something really serious. And I said this to say because it's a verse that goes with this. And it's Proverbs 22, 24 through 25. It says, do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. Look, when I saw this verse, I'm like, bro, it's real though. Because think about it. Again, this goes to a topic I was talking about in another episode, like who you surround yourself with. And it's whoever you're around and you consume yourself with every single day, and the people that are influencing you, they're going to wear off on you inevitably. And it's, their actions are going to subconsciously become your own habits. But it says, do not associate one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. What does that mean? It means you're around somebody that's easily angered, and they're always angry and they're always complaining about something. They're always screaming at something. Naturally, you're going to inherit those traits. Like, I know people who are totally different. And looking back, I found myself being a suspect of this. Like y'all have heard this person on here, but my boy Austin, one of my best friends, my brother, literally known him since 2 years old. He is the exact opposite of me when it comes to being like docile, being calm, controlling his emotions. I'm more so emotional. I'm more so, you say something to me, I'm gonna say something right back to you. uh, he'll more so be like, "Hey, bro, I'm not with all that. Like, just watch out." Like he does not like any type of conflict, and I love that about him. Me, sometimes on my own detriment, I invite that conflict. I invite that. What in the world? Sorry, the lights are flickering in my room. uh, I invite, debate, conflict, so forth and so on, because I don't mind it. I don't mind going back and forth with somebody. And a lot of times, again, that leads to my detriment. But I say that to say, I've found myself um wearing off on Austin a little bit, being in situations where me and Austin are having an argument, and I'm going back and forth with him, and he doesn't even like all that. But I'm so turned up that he's screaming back at me, and in the moment I'm just like, okay, we going back and forth, like we about to get into this. But looking back, and this is me years down the line, looking back at stuff like this, but I'm driving something out of him that's not really him. Like, he doesn't even like screaming. He doesn't like arguing. He doesn't like conflict. He just likes chilling. You like my boy Austin is one of the most calm, chill, reserved people you'll meet. Like, he just loves a good time. He doesn't mind just chilling, sitting down. So the fact that I was driving that out of him, we're screaming at each other, and he doesn't even like screaming. 95% of the time, he's, yo, what's up? Like, that's him. So the fact, like, when I saw that verse, I had an epiphany. I'm like, bruh, like, that was me. I was so driven by anger. I don't want to say driven by anger, but in a sense, I was, because I always let anger, my anger was, taking over my actions a lot of times. And looking at that verse, sometimes I was the person who was the hot tempered, angry person. And again, you don't want to be around people who are always driven by anger and just always, um, irritated, and always just letting that control their actions. That is not healthy for anyone. So I say that to say, like, we need to watch who we're around, because it can influence anger out of you. Like, it can make you an angry person. It's the same thing if you around somebody who's always complaining about something. And this is something I've been around and I've dealt with myself. Someone who's always complaining, always whining about something, or always talking about other people. Stuff like I don't like stuff like that, right? But I've been in a situation where it's somebody who, that I love, but they're just always, complaining, always crying about something, always, you know, talking about somebody else or doing this and that. I'm like, bro, I just go. I just try to, separate myself, or go somewhere else, go to the gym, go to my room, or take a nap, or not really take a nap, but just get out of that room, because when you let that consume you, you're gonna eventually succumb to that. And again, I think that verse just tells us, man, we need to be careful, because you can get ensnared, um, you can be influenced by the people around you. If they're angry, a lot of times you might become angry just like them. So we just need to be careful about that. And also call your friends out when they're tripping too much, because they might not know. I know I didn't know. Not to the full extent. Like, I knew I would get angry, and I kind of had anger management problems a little bit, but I didn't know to the extent like what it was. I'm just like, bro, I'm a guy. Like, everybody gets angry, but I didn't know how much it was controlling my actions, and and how it was really impacting others. And I'm still working through it. But I didn't know. So that's I say that to say also, your friends, people who you love, tell them. They might not really grasp how important it is, and then it might help them change their ways. Um, Another thing too that ties into forgiveness, but it stems from anger a lot of times. We can't hold grudges, and we can't hold on to anger. Um, Again, like I said in another past episode, we have to forgive, not forget, but forgive. But we can't hold on to past situations, past, um, quarrels, past fights, whatever, past arguments. We can't hold on to the anger. We can't let it harbor. We have to let it go, and Um, it's my mom used to say this all the time. Like she used to say this all the time, and it's stuck with me throughout my whole life. But she used to say, don't let the sun go down your anger. And that actual verse is Ephesians 4:26-27. It says, in your anger do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. And do not give the devil a foothold. What does that mean? Just what I said. Now sometimes you're gonna go to sleep. Now my mom used to literally say this. William, do not go to sleep angry. Now there's times where I've gone to sleep angry. It's just inevitable sometimes. Sometimes you can't let it go in that moment, especially if it just happened. It might have been something that happened that night. But I remember my mom used to tell me, like, because I remember there's been times where I'm angry, I'm tight, like I'm really mad. And she tell me, hey, go watch Phineas and Ferb or go watch a comedy special or something. Like, go watch a fun movie, something that gets your mind off of it so you can fall asleep without that on the forefront of your mind. Now, that's something, the immediate thing to try to uh not let the anger overtake you. But but also long term. And I know it sounds cliche, but you never know what can happen. You never know what the next day holds. And if we're holding on to past uh past hurts, past actions that people did to you or things that they said to you, you never know what can happen. You might not have the opportunity to be able to, I guess, forgive them if you don't do it then. And it sounds like I'm talking about forgiving, which I am, but it stems from anger. That anger is holding us back from taking that next step. So I think, again, we can't let the sun go down in anger, and we could take it as don't go to sleep angry. But if that's what you need to think of, then boom, do it like that. Try to make amends as soon as possible. Um, because when we're overtaken by anger, then the devil, he's right there. He's happy. He's clapping, right? He's celebrating. When we're sitting there, letting our anger and letting our emotions control our actions, the devil is happy about that. And we can't let that happen. That's why that verse says, do not give the devil a foothold. Don't let him get a hold of you. Don't let him sit there. Don't let him feel like he has an upper hand. Um, because when we're extremely angry and extremely irritable and we let those things control us, that's what happens. The devil is in the midst. So we just have to be careful about that and be cognizant and know. Going off that though, anger is a natural emotion. Like I said, it's something that we humanly cannot avoid. We could try to make it as minute as possible, as minuscule as possible, but it is a natural emotion that's going to be evoked by certain situations, certain circumstances, and we have to know that. But we have to program ourselves, and it takes time, but we have to program ourselves to be able to control it, to be able to not let it overtake what we do from a day to day or on a day to day basis. Um, we're going to get angry. And sometimes it's right. Sometimes it's righteous anger, or I don't even know righteous anger, but it's sometimes it's okay to be angry. Well. Let me say this. Let me say my word. I want to say this correctly. There are gonna be times where you're angry because something that happened. Somebody smacks you in the face. You're going to be angry. It's not about to be, oh, oh, why did you smack me? And you smile. Like, it's not that. It'll never be that. I know for me, it'll never. Don't put your hands on me, bro. Like, all jokes aside, I'm getting tight thinking about it. But for real though, like, it's like, just think of it. This is more so an extreme. Let somebody puts their hands on you. It's not about to be some happy occasion. But we do have control over that anger. What are we gonna do next? Are we gonna hit them back? Me, I might. Not saying that's. Let me stop. But nah, for real though, somebody hit me, I'm probably gonna hit them back. Especially, it depends on the situation, but not a woman, of course. But it's that's something that is hard to control, and it's a problem. I'm not saying that's a good thing because it's not. But we have the power to be able to figure out what that next step is. Once that natural emotion comes about in a situation like that, what's our next step? And that's when I say, anger is a natural emotion, but we have to program ourselves to control it, to be able to take that anger and take it somewhere else, direct it somewhere else. We can't let it control our next steps, our next actions, because that leads to evil, really. And it's a verse that I'm going to bring up in a second, but it literally does lead to evil. It leads to sin. Anger doesn't really lead to anything good. Uh, so that's why we have to nip it in the bud as soon as possible. Again, you're going to be angry. I'm pretty sure I'm angry every day. That's not a good thing. But I told y'all I'm irritable. So it's things that tick me off every single day. But I've learned to, okay, as soon as I feel that it's getting there, all right, bro, relax. It's not that deep. Or, okay, bro is making me tight where I really want to hurt him. Let me get out this room. Or, all right, they talking crazy. I'm going to go ahead and walk away. So it's just being proactive um, with that and knowing, anger is not always the best. It's never the best. It's never the best. It doesn't lead to anything great. Um, Now, actually, I know some people might oblige. In sports, when I'm angry, good things happen. Blah blah blah. My rebuttal with that would be that even if you are angry and you start playing harder, this isn't football. So maybe in football it works. I don't know, but that's a barbaric sport. So I don't know, but I'm gonna speak from life. Anger doesn't lead to anything good. So we just have to learn to control it and be able to, uh, channel it. Don't give into the anger because it can ruin your life. Basically, what I've been saying. We can't let anger control us. It can and will ruin your life. Uh, Man, like I've found myself, and I never really get personal in arguments. I used to back in the day, like when I was 12. I remember it was like sixth, seventh grade. I want to say sixth grade. I was always arguing like I do today, but it was a lot more just goofy back then. But I would always be arguing with folks, and I remember I was getting personal. Like, I never really called anybody obese or anything like that, but everything else was free game. Your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your aunt, uh, how you walk, how you talk, how you smell, your grades. Like everything was free game for me. Uh, and I just had to learn, like, bro, like I said, it was around 12, so sixth grade. I was like, bro, that's not even, like, what are we doing? That's not, first of all, it's not of God. And then second, it's just not cool. Especially like with your friends. I never threw something back in their face that they told me in confidence or like behind closed doors. I never did that. But I would cross the line a little bit and get personal. And I had to learn, I don't know if that's early or late, but I learned what I did. About, first year of middle school, I was like, bro, I can't do that anymore because that's not even being a good friend. And that's when my anger take over because I know one thing I know I have something I've talked with my mom a lot, and I get this from her, I think, but I have pretty tough skin. Like you can't really say anything to make me. People can say things that like irritate me, and I'll turn up, but it's not because I'm hurt. It's because I'm tight. Like who are you talking to? Like it's more so disrespect. But it takes the only people that can really like hurt me and really get through me. Pause. Probably my mom, my significant others. That sounds like I have plural. But whoever my significant other is, uh, close friends, really family. And I can count on my hand how many people can really get me out my body and really hurt me at the end of the day. I just never, I'm not really built like that. I got a pretty tough skin, but to saying that, I feel like I can get under people's skin. That's not a good thing. But when I was younger, I used to use that to my advantage. Oh, I know this about to get you turned up. All right, I'm gonna say this. Looking back, that's sad. That's evil at the end of the day. That's not cool to do. But that's what I was on. Like as a little kid, you arguing, you trying to find any little advantage. Somebody said something crazy about you. Okay, bet I'm gonna do this. Everybody's gonna laugh. Everybody's gonna be in your head. Now what? Like that was the mentality back then. Looking back, it's so immature. but that's what I was on. And once you realize that's what you're doing, and it's really evil at the end of the day. I'm not even gonna try to sugarcoat or say something that it is, something that's not, because it is evil at the end of the day when you're plotting like that, when you're thinking like that. That's nothing, it's not godly, it's not of God. But all of that is from anger. When people make you angry, people irritate you, it shouldn't lead to that. It can lead to that, but we have to be able to control that anger and not let it get to that point. Which when I was way younger, it used to do that. So like talking about it is kind of embarrassing, but it is what it is because that's what I was on, and I'm fine to talk about it now because I know I've grown, I've gone through that, and I still have my downfalls, but I'm way past that part of my life. But that is something. Again, it's a natural emotion, so we have to know how to control it, and if we don't, it can ruin our lives. A verse that I'm thinking of as well, Psalms 37:8. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it only leads to evil. It leads only to evil. Like I just said, bro, like anger, it doesn't lead to anything great. It just doesn't. I don't care what side or how you look at it, what angle you look at it from. Anger is not of God. Uh, Now we get angry, but that doesn't mean that we can't let it control our actions. We can't let it control our emotions. We can't let it control what we do. And once we come out with that aspect of it, when we sit back and really just chill, internalize everything that's going on, and be receptive to you know the our surroundings, then it calms us a little bit more and helps us maneuver our way through life. Another thing I wanted to talk about is anger hardens your heart. Again, earlier, like I was saying, we have to forgive, we have to let go, but anger definitely hardens your heart. I can tell y'all from experience, anger, it at a point it had me, it was hardening my heart. And it was at a point where it was a coach, like the same coach. I've talked about him a few times. I'll never mention his name on here, but back in high school, I had no respect for bro, like whatsoever. And it was to a point where I didn't care what happened to him. I didn't pray on his downfall. I didn't um, wish any ill will on him, but I didn't care what he did in life. I didn't, if he lost, if he won, I didn't care. If something happened to him, I didn't care. If something good happened to him, I didn't care. Like I didn't care about anything about his life in general. And that was my heart being hardened. My heart was cold towards that person. So I'm like, bro, you treated me a certain way, you said these things to me, you did this to me, and I felt like it was just OD for no reason. And you were taking your anger out on me with a past situation. But that really hardened my heart towards that person. And I was, I now I can look back and acknowledge that. In a moment, I would have never told you that's what it was. I'm like, nah, bro, forget, bro. I don't care about dog. Like, it is what it is. But that's not the right mentality to have. Again, like I said, anger hardens your heart. It doesn't do anything great for you. And obviously, as I got older and I matured and God has, worked on me, I can look back and acknowledge that's what was going on. So when I had another situation very similar to that, I didn't feel the same. It didn't get to that extent. Now, obviously, I wasn't happy, but when I had a similar situation years later, it's like, you know what? I've been through this. I'm not going to let this overtake my actions. I'm not going to let this impact my everyday, how God wants me to act towards other people, how God wants me to, live my life. I'm not going to let that overtake. I'm not going to let my anger or what you did overtake how I'm supposed to live my life for God. So if that situation in high school didn't happen, when I got to college, it maybe if I didn't learn it then, I would have to learn it in college. So I'm glad I went through it in high school because when I got to college, I was prepared. I was ready for it. And I felt like in high school I couldn't go through anything as bad as that. Um, but yeah, like I'm kind of off topic, but on topic, I was thankful for that situation, because it tested my anger, and I didn't pass the test. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I failed miserably. I just told y'all I didn't care about bro. Again, I've never prayed on anyone's downfall. I think that's Satan. If you've ever done that, no judge, but that's crazy work. We shouldn't be doing that. I've never prayed on anyone's downfall, but in a sense, it might. It's not. I wouldn't say it's the same, but it's just as bad as in when you don't care. Like you, like I don't care if bro drives off a ditch. Like we shouldn't have that mentality. And I could probably say back then that's how I was feeling in high school. Like, bro, I don't care what happens to bro. I don't like him. I don't respect him. Like, and I wasn't treating him with love. Going back to last week, I wasn't treating him with love. Like, you don't have to like. And I think I forgot to say this. I think I forgot to say this last episode. You don't have to like somebody to love them. Most people I don't like. Let's be honest here. Most people I do not like y'all. Y'all are weird. Y'all move crazily. Y'all are terrible people. Y'all talk about others. Y'all, I don't like most people. Let's be honest here. I'm gonna just get that off my chest. I do not like most people on earth. There's I can count my hand how many people I genuinely like just as people. But then as a Christian, we have to take into account that we have to love those people either way. We have to love them because God loved us. We have to love others. And with anger, sometimes it stops us from truly loving that person. When we're angry and we let that overtake what we do, it stops us from the most important thing, love. And God is the most important thing, but God is love. So when we love, when again, I'm gonna go back to Dr. Warner. Shout out Dr. Warner. When our actions are driven by love and not fear, great things happen. When our actions are driven by fear and not love, bad things happen. Fear leads to anger. Fear leads to insecurities. Fear leads to other things, everything. So fear always leads to these things. I'm gonna keep spamming that because it keeps coming about in these conversations. But again, anger hardens your heart. We have to forgive. We have to let go, and we can't have that mentality towards having a cold heart and just not caring for others. Still have to be sympathetic and pray for those people. And great segue, Will, because again, how I end off all of these, we have to pray. We have to pray for our anger and your situation. You have to pray for your anger, your irritability, and your situation at hand. Whatever you feel like, and it might not just be one situation. It might just be a general thing, which that was for me at a certain point in time, where I wouldn't say I was an angry person because I was pretty happy, but a lot of things irritated me. And sometimes we have to pray for that. God, please help me in how easily irritated I get. Please help me in how angry I get. Please help me in how when I get around these people, I feel like I'm just getting rage baited every single day. Like you have to pray with those. You have to pray about those things. And God can and He will soften your heart towards those situations, towards those circumstances, and He'll give you direction on what you need to do. Again, anger is going to happen. That's not something that you can ever avoid. But we do have the power to be able to control how we react, how we take that anger and turn it into something else. I'm not saying it's going to be an immediate thing where we're like, okay, whereas I think of that Chris Paul meme where I pull it out, pause, all the time. Where it's like I'm laughing hysterically and then I go straight face. I go straight face immediately. I usually do that when I'm trolling, when somebody says something unfunny and I go straight face. Like that's usually when I pull it up. But it makes me pause. But it makes me thinking that when we're talking about you're not gonna immediately just be happy when you're angry. It's gonna take time to get over. It might take a day, it might take a month, it might take a year. But knowing that every single day we're making the choice to not let anger control what we do and not let anger control how we react and not let anger lead to evil, because it does. That's all it does. So we have to take that anger, internalize it, move forward without it. And yeah, I mean that's really what I want to talk about today, y'all. Again, all these things I talk about, man, I'm trying to work through in my life. I try to give y'all personal experiences so y'all know y'all aren't alone and y'all know that I'm talking to myself as well. So this is hopefully something that I apply to my everyday life. I hope you guys can apply to your everyday life as well. Again, I thank y'all for supporting. I'm sorry for the loyal fans who always listen every week. I have, I've been going through a lot this past, I'll say month, maybe a few weeks, but life just been lifing, man. And school, everything. So it's just been basketball's ramping up, all of that stuff. And it's a little bit harder for me to get these episodes in throughout the week, which I'm gonna still try to do. But sometimes it might just have to be a weekend thing, like today. But again, I appreciate y'all for supporting. I appreciate y'all for the love, man. Please like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please follow the podcast pages. Please follow me on Instagram. On my Instagram will be my spot, man, I can't speak. My Spotify podcast page, my Apple podcast page, and just follow those for me. Um, I recently put my TikTok on there. Again, I don't use TikTok, but trying to get as much outreach as possible. My TikTok page should also be on my Instagram. My Instagram should just be it is Count on Joy podcast. Um, you'll see it. If you follow my real Instagram, like my personal Instagram, uh, my podcast page is in that bio. It's the link in the bio, so y'all could click on that, follow that for me. But yeah, y'all, I appreciate y'all, man. I really do. Something I love doing. So thank y'all for listening. I thank y'all for supporting, man. Stay blessed, stay prayed up, keep God first, man. Love, attitude, gratitude, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.